You have asked, and now I answer. I'm going to talk about a race that looks like the back end of a sewage pipe that's clogged. The Sloads. A word I am actually able to pronounce. So we're going to talk about them, and I'm going to tell you who they are, and what they do, and Sloads. Just Sloads. They look like the minions of Jabba the Hutt, if Jabba the Hutt looked 10 times worse. This race of beast-like amphibians are said to be one of, if not, Tamriel's most hated races to ever exist. Let's start from where they come from and what they really are, and even how they are made, you know lads, so let's sit back, relax, listen and crack open a cold one, why don't you? Right, so assuming you have seen Star Wars, they kinda look like Jabba the Hutt, except bigger and more disgusting like. So the Sloads start off as a wee baby grub with no obvious meaning to life whatsoever. After a while of swimming around, they turn into tiny little octopus looking things called Polwiggles. And I know it sounds cute, but trust me, these guys don't look cute. They eventually keep growing and become young adults, but don't tend to arise above the waters. But then they become big men dudes and they grow proper legs and they try to walk and land but end up just floating on water because they are so fat and immobile. A thing to consider about these guys, and I know you're all asking yourself, Irish, how do they do it? They so big. How would they be able to reproduce more? Well, my young lore fanatics, they don't. They are hermaphrodites at birth, and I guess they swim around with each other at younger ages because by the time they make break on land, their reproductive organs have been absorbed inside of their bodies. It's pretty messed up, but that's the cycle of a life for a Sload. So where do they come from? So sitting in between Hammerfell and the Somerset Isles to the west is the coral kingdom of, god damn it, Thras? I butchered it, did I? I don't know. Cursed suffix can't handle my Irish accent. Not a whole lot is known about this kingdom, to be honest. Literally feck all, to be honest, bar the fact that it is mostly sunken under the sea at this point in history. Well, by the time Skyrim takes place, anyway. A large portion of it is, anyway. I'm just gonna move on. It is believed that the Somerset Isles was once part of the Kingdom of Thras because it shares some of the similar coral architecture as Thras, but it's not entirely sure if it is. But in modern times, they are seen as two separate kingdoms. So the history of the Sloads. So let's do a summary of the Sloads' history and the events they have been involved in, and after I'll just throw in some of the cool stuff about them and where you can actually find one. So they grew and spread out and have a pretty dark background. So once the Sload got their bearing, they decided to start invading the Somerset Isles more and even made eventual attempts on Hammerfell. As a race, they don't see things like murder and necromancy as an actual bad thing and will use any trick they can to achieve their goals. They are extremely persistent and crafty and not a race that anyone should take lightly. With constant attacks on the Somerset Isles over the course of many years, one attack, which was named the Siege of Skywatch, had them sieging the city of Skywatch in Oredon, if I pronounced that right, where they sent many forces to deal with the mayor that lived there. The mayor held up quite well with defenses, destroying many Sload ships and units, but due to the sheer brute force of their physical being, one warcaster managed to topple the defensive citadel into the ocean, where the Sloads then managed to finish off the mayor who remained around. Another recalled event in Sload history was including Hammerfell. The Red Guards used to bury their criminals in the sands along the deserts. So the Sloads used this to their advantage by conjuring up some necromancy and bringing all these dead criminals together to fight for them. Although an excellent tactic, the sheer brutality of the Red Guards managed to surpass and still beat the Sloads. What you need to know is that Manamarco, the King of Worms, was seen as a hero to the Sloads. You know, the King of Necromancy, so you can see why they were kind of into it, you know. They used disease quite a lot in their attempts at battle. One noticeable event, which is the very reason everyone hates them as a race in whole, was the Thrassian plague. This was an attempt engineered by the Sloads at wiping out Tamriel's populace, and they nearly succeeded. When the plague let loose, over half of the population of the entire of Tamriel was lost to this plague. So high-ranking members of Cyrodiil had a fleet created called the All Flags Navy, which was sent to deal with the Sloads and the island of Thras. I think I did it that time. No, I didn't. The ships managed to make it over after losing nearly half their fleet to storms conjured up by the Sloads' powerful magic. Once over, they were easily able to overcome the Sloads' forces and kill all of them. With powerful magic, they also managed to sink most of Thras into the ocean, where they thought they had wiped out the race. They hadn't actually, as the Sload would appear many years later, re-emerging as a much weaker race than what they were before. The Navy managed to not only nearly wipe out the race, but also push them out of all lands including Skywatch, which they managed to hold for nearly 1,000 years. But yeah, the Sloads pretty much failed in the end. Today they are still roaming around somewhere in Thras, which I guess is kind of cool because we may see them again in future games. In the Elder Scrolls Redguard, you can actually meet and fight one of these Sloads. Nagasta, as he is known, if I pronounced that right, is a necromancer who worked under the power of Clavicus Vile and Manamarco. Yeah, he was a pretty crafty dude. He even wrote a book called Nagasta Kavakis, if I even said that right. He had it all, sure didn't he? Until he was turned into a blue puddle by Cyrus. Another thing you might be interested to know is about Sload soaps. God, they are amazing. You can rub them all over yourself, on Maik, on whoever you want. They are just so good. They are made from the polywiggle stage of the Sload's younghood. It is said that it was a mutated form of the larva from the children, which were killed by the Sloads. It's kinda dark, but they were used in these soaps, and that also might have set off the plague, but who knows, you know, it's all a theory, you know, we think about this stuff. Them slug people are a bit of crafty feckers. That's the basis of the Sloads and their history and some of the things they have been involved in. They aren't the nicest people in the world. They are quite foul and nasty and disgusting. Ew. But anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed, and if you do like this sort of crack with the Elder Scrolls, then feel free to subscribe for more every week. Have a good old day, and I shall see you next time.